In this lesson, we're going to learn how to place button controls onto the form, and then we're going to include some simple code behind the button, so when the user presses the button, the code will run underneath. Okay, so first of all, we go into the toolbox. Now, if you can't find toolbox, go into view, and you'll find toolbox there. Okay. Now inside here, there's quite a few different options, but all that we need to look at here is common controls just for now. So these parts here. We're going to click a button, so we click on the button, and then we can click and drag onto the form how wide you want the button. We can again resize them, linking with the same size as the guide controls there, so it looks a little bit neater. Now you'll notice that button 1 appears inside the button. We need to change that. But first of all, we need to make sure we name this button correctly. Now, if you don't see this list in this order, you can click on this button and that will order them alphabetically, but the name is always at the top. So if I click BTN, now remember about naming conventions, we use FRM before for form, and V for views, if you remember, inside the Server Explorer. And then we're going to click on save. Okay, because that's what the button will do, and that's what it's going to be called. So if you click on the text property, that's what people see inside the button. We're just going to type it, save there. Okay, and then when we press enter, save appears inside the button. Okay, now if we press start and run this, you'll see how it looks. On the form, you'll see the button. Obviously, there's nothing happening just yet, but when the user clicks on this, we want it to save any changes we've done to the actual files. So we're going to click stop on that. Now, to put code behind a button, double click the button itself. Just double click and make 100% certain, and make notice where your cursor is flashing, because a very common mistake is putting this code in the wrong place and then it doesn't run properly. So the idea is, you can see it's a private sub or subroutine that's already been done. Button save is what we called the actual button, and this is the reason why we named the button before we started creating the code. Don't worry too much about this detail, we'll cover them in the future. And what we need to do, we need to put some code behind here. Okay, we'll just type some code into here, and you can see this code here. I'll explain the code first of all. Me validate, it validates the actual validates the value of the control. Now you can see on just hovering over the mouse over options, it gives us a complete explanation about each of the sections there. This here, where it says me is the current object, which is the current form. Athlete binding source, end edit. So when we click onto this, it will end the edit, and then the following line will update the tables for us. So me, again, it's this current object, table data manager, which holds all the data changes, update all, and this object here is me, or the current form, U4 Sports main dataset. So this will actually update any changes in the me U4 Sports main dataset. Pause the video, type that in exactly the way it is. Now be very careful when you're typing in. If you get anything underlined in red or something similar like that, see, just check your typing that's not been edited properly. Okay, so just double check that, and when you finish that, restart the video again. Okay, when we've done that, we can now run the project, and this time we're going to try changing some edits. So if I change the telephone number, so if I click on Arisatu, so click on that, you'll see the details here. I'm going to change the number to end in 3 3s, so it's 333. I'm going to save the data, and you can see now it's saved it inside the data file. So if I close the project down, start it up again, and you can see them data edits have already been saved because we select the save button. Okay, so that's the save button. The next thing we need to do is we're going to create a close button which will close the form. So let's go back to design. Now we go under button, we can select that, and then we can resize it and be on level with that option there. If you want to resize it sideways, I normally drag it on there and then bring it there, and that's make certain that's the right size then from there. I'm going to change the properties of this. So again, I'm going to just put close there because it's close the actual operation. And then here I'm going to put BTN close. Now what this does, this will close the form down, but to make 100% certain the user has saved the data, we're going to put what's called a verification check behind this button. So if we double click the button, we then type the code behind it. Again, make 100% certain your cursor is flashing in the actual procedure you want to do. We're going to type some code in. Again, I'll explain this code to you. So select case is a way of selecting various options from certain program code. In this particular case, it's the message box that we're going to present yes, no, and cancel. And then the message important will actually be the heading of that message box. So the first option, or the first case, if someone selects the yes button, it will actually close the form, but only after displaying this message. Have you saved your changes? If it's yes, it will close the form. If you select cancel, it will do nothing and just return to the form. If you select no, it will not save and come back to the actual form. Now, there are better ways than doing this, but just for now, we'll keep to the simple routines. Okay, again, I'll stop. You stop the video, type the code in, and then I'll see you after you've typed the code. After we type the code, if we now press start, we can see exactly what we've done. So if we test this now by clicking close, it will say important, as you mentioned before, it's in the message on there. Have you saved your changes? If I click no, it'll go back to, if I click cancel, it will actually, again, not do anything and come back to this. If I click close and then select yes, it will then now close the form, ready for the next procedure. To recap this session, we first of all learned how to put buttons onto the form. We named the button. We put the text property inside the button, so the display on the button would be so the users can understand exactly what the button does. We then put program code behind the button, so when the user clicks the button, the program code behind the button will run and execute the required code.